Hey you guys, what's going on? It's your big dreamer and doer G Dinero coming to you today with another TA Tuesday. This time it's November 4th, 2025. And with markets generally taking a proverbial dump, I'm here to talk to you about the majors like Bitcoin, Solana, MicroStrategy, Tesla, Nvidia, PLTR, and more. But first, remember, none of this is tax, legal, financial, investment advice. It's your buddy G Dinero helping you increase your financial literacy to help put you and your family on that path to financial freedom. And before we dig in, huge thank you goes out to Rusted Woods 100, who dropped a $20 super sticker yesterday saying, "So glad to see that you're doing so well, Rusty. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, brother. I really appreciate it. Not only are you a frequent watcher and commenter on the channel, but also a really good friend of mine, and I greatly appreciate that, man. That means the world to me." Remington said, "I've been a follower of James and Invest Answers for 5 years or more, and he introduced me to your channel. I'm now a faithful follower of your show, and I'm amazed at how the two of you align with investment ideas. I think you two guys should do a show together." I'm game. Are you, James? Investivania said, "Highly underrated video. This is the most important concept of investing." Thank you, Investivania. Woozy Woo Star said, "Gee, you explaining investing information so well. Thank you." And the last one is Git945, who just wrote "Get into house," but Git has been commenting on my posts longer than anybody else has. In fact, he was the one that gave me the idea to start calling out some of the people that are commenting on a regular basis. So Git, all these times I've done shout outs, I've never shouted you out. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate you being a faithful follower, longtime client, and now longtime friend of mine. So thanks, Rusted Woods 100. Thank you, Remington, Investivania, Woozy Woo Star, and of course, Git945. So with no further ado, let's take a look at the charts. All right, we're going to start as usual here with the Bitcoin TABI model. The Bitcoin TABI model remains light orange, surprising considering the general weakness that Bitcoin has shown over the last several weeks, right? It was just October 6th that we made a new all-time high of $126,272. And in the last 28 days, the price has dropped, 29 days, the price has dropped to under $104,000, right? So we are starting to kind of get into that, I guess you would call it, critical zone of, we broke that level of $105,000 worth of support. We are still light orange, meaning the Meyer multiple not overheated at all. In fact, some of the weakest readings that we've seen since all the way back here in April. The MVRVZ, same thing, weakest reading since back in April when we were going through the tariff tantrums. And the historical volatility, although we had a little blip here for about a week or so, is back down in the 25 to 30 range, which for Bitcoin is very, very low. All things considered, relatively quiet, right? Relatively quiet. If we pop over here to the daily chart, and I just back out a little bit, right? We're back down to levels not seen since all the way back on Friday, October 17th. So literally like 2.5 weeks ago, we're back to the same levels. Surprising, because you would think that the world was over. We were deep into a bear market. We were 40 or 50% corrected if you were to look at the sentiment of what's going on. We are, however, approximating this $102,500 Fibonacci level right here, along with the 1 year moving average. The 1 year moving average is right around $102,000. What you'll notice is the 1 year moving average. That's this tan to yellow, tannish white colored line that I'm tracing along right here. Where did we bounce from during the tariff tantrum? Directly on the 1 year moving average. Where did we bounce back on September 5th, 2024, 1 year moving average? Where did we bounce on August 5th during the yen carry trade unwind? The 1 year moving average. So that 1 year moving average has proven to be extremely strong support since all the way back here on March 18th, 2023. We broke above it, and we've stayed above it since March 18th, 2023. And again, that is the tannish colored line that you see coming into the view right here, coming up and approximating $102,500. Okay. Where's the floor? Well, we're grinding down through this giant pocket of activity that we have right here. If we take a little bit longer look at it, we let VRVP fill in, you'll notice that there is definitely some volume below right here at $95,000. $95,000 is that line in the sand like Jordy Visser talks about, like James from Check on Chain talks about. In fact, I made a video all about this. I'll go ahead and link to it here. And in that video, I talked about what I believe is happening. There is a tremendous amount of sell pressure. In fact, according to James Check from Check on Chain in this morning's premium video that he made, there's been 4.1 million Bitcoin coins sold from long-term holders over the last year to year and a half or so. Since we've had these distribution events, every time we've had a new all-time high, we've had a distribution event. We had a new all-time high, we had a distribution event, and we've had a new all-time high. We're on our third major distribution event. Collectively, they've distributed about 4.1 million Bitcoin from long-term holders' hands, those that have been holding it for 5 months or longer, into new holders. So you sit there and go, why are all these people selling so much? You've got to ask yourself the other side of the question. Who is buying all these coins, right? The fact that that kind of sell pressure has happened. By the way, historically, tops of bull markets were met with $2 to $3 million worth of long-term selling pressure. That's in absolute number of coins. And that's caused the market to tank and go straight into a bull market. Straight into a bear market. This time we've sold 4.1 million and we've dropped from a whopping 126 down to 104, right? We're barely down 10-12%, which is not unusual in a bear market, in a bull market. We see those kind of corrections all the time. So watch that piece that I made. I'll go into a lot more depth. I'm just not going to do it here on this video. Realize to the downside, we have significant support here at 105 that we've dropped below. A little bit of support down here at 100 to 101. You can see that. That also corresponds at that 102 level with the 1 year moving average. And if we were to go below that, we're down at 95. As James Check says, that's a level that I don't want to see, right? I don't want to see us go down to 105, down to 95. But could we? Yes. Does that mean that we're definitely going into a bear market? No. Does that mean that there might be some more buying opportunities there? And the answer is yes. I have taken the opportunity on this pullback over the last several days to continue to stack sats. Why? Because I'm constantly taking those crappy pieces of paper with pictures of dead presidents on them that, in my opinion, are going to be worth nothing in the future, and converting them over into the best money known to man, the best store of value known to man, which is Bitcoin. It's scarce, it's strong, it's the future, right? So I look at it as, I'm not going to buy the top, but if we see a pullback, I'm definitely going to go ahead and stack a few sats. If we look at the liquidity, what we notice is liquidity did peak out right here on September 30th. And since then, we've been just grinding downwards, right? Down and back down and retesting this level that we tested before. So do we bounce here on the liquidity cycle? Perhaps. The rates were cut another 1/4 of a point, but Jerome Powell telegraphed that we may not have another rate cut in December. He telegraphed that QT is ending, quantitative tightening, but didn't come out and say QE was beginning, quantitative easing. But by default, it kind of will, which by default is kind of money printing. So this is all to be determined on the whole liquidity cycle side of things. As far as the 4-hour chart, you'll see great opportunity here to go ahead and stack some sats. We have buying opportunities on the chart with a green mean reversion tot greater than 2 standard deviations below the norm. You can see that right over here that we're at 1.98 right now. Our RSI is dropping below 30, and MACD is down in the negative zone. We are down at the very bottom of all the confluence clouds. The only thing that's missing is a bright green buy signal and the trend to flip back up again like we saw coming out of this October 17th and 18th drop about, what, 2.5 weeks ago, just 2.5 weeks ago. Resistance to the upside will now be around this 100 and, well, let me go ahead and bring this out just to show you. Resistance to the upside is going to begin here at around $107,000 and continue all the way up to $111,000, $111,000, almost $112,000. That is the point of control. So that's where the most volume is exchanged hands. So we're going to have to grind through each of these major stacks of volume to go back up again, then reclaim the short-term holder cost basis. The quicker we reclaim the short-term holder cost basis, the better. If we keep messing with it and rejecting off of it, that's a bad sign. That's a bearish signal. We also have to get back above the 200-day moving average, which is around 110, and then reclaim the other two moving averages, the 50 and the 100. And those are around $113,500 to $114,000 respectively. Once we get back up over $118,000, it's smooth sailing, right? But that is the major resistances to the upside and the supports to the downside. If we go over to the Solana Bitcoin chart, on the daily chart, we have seen it officially break down, right? We made new local highs, higher levels than we had seen since all the way back at the beginning of the year in January. And those levels were hit here in September. And then since then, we've just come right back down, retested the 200-day moving average, which I said was a very bullish sign here, how we bounced off of it and started on our way back up again. But then we found resistance at this 100-day moving average, didn't even stop at the 200 and are cruising down. That means Solana is dumping harder than Bitcoin is right now, creating an opportunity to perhaps move some more Bitcoin over to Solana. That's what you would do if this chart bottoms out here. You see RSI is getting close to 30 again, and mean reversion is getting close to 1 standard deviation to the downside. Solana, on the straight Solana daily chart, you can see we've broken down from this current support zone that extended all the way down to 166. We've gone all the way down. We did wick down to 156, and we're sitting around 160 to 161 right now. This should be support, right? If we back out and we really take a look at this, you'll see that there's a tremendous amount of volume that starts back up again here at this 157 level. So we're at the bottom of this chunk of volume right here that we've been hanging on with for support. If we were to drop down to the downside, you'll see the point of control over the last, call it 8 months or so, 7 months, has been around $145 a coin. So somewhere between 145 and 150 would act as the floor right now. Set your liquidation prices accordingly if you're perp trading. To the upside, you'll notice that we have the 200-day moving average. That'll act as resistance starting here around 175 to 180, right? That'll be the immediate resistance to the upside. Then the 61.8 fib level at 185. And then, of course, we've got to get through the psychological levels of 200 to the upside. If we go over to the 4-hour chart on Solana, you'll see something very similar. Let me back this out just a little bit and take a look at really over the last year or so. We are right back down to levels that we were seeing and bottoming at back in November of 2024. So 1 year ago, on the day of the election, we are right back to the exact same price today of Solana, and that price is right around 160. So we've been as high as 295. We've been as low as 95 since then. 295 back here in January, 95 during the tariff tantrums in April of 2025, April 7th. And now we're right back to where we were 1 year ago. You can see that support starting here at 145, 150. Do we support on that or do we go lower? The jury is out. There's lots and lots of favorable things on the horizon for Solana. There's just a relatively negative sentiment towards cryptocurrency in general right now. it seems like it is the place people are going in and grabbing liquidity from in order to invest in the AI revolution that's going on. If we go over here to Ethereum, I told you guys, once it started topping out near 5,000, take your profits. We had 1, 2, 3, 4 major runs at $5,000 starting back in August and extending all the way here into the beginning of this month. Now we're starting to make a series of lower highs. Each of these highs has been lower. Each of these lows has been lower. Structurally, I think we topped around August of 24th. And since then, all we've done is make a series of lower highs and lower lows. Don't shoot the messenger. I told you we could come all the way back down to the 200-day moving average, and we're not very far from it right now. We're back down below $3,500. You had the opportunity to sell at close to $5,000. Ethereum to me is not a holder. It is a trader. Like, trade it. If it spikes to 5,000, sell it. If it drops to 3,500 to 4,000, buy it back if you think it's going to go back up again, right? To sit there and think, though, that it's just going to go up into the right forever, nothing does. None of our investments do, right? So right now it is showing some buying signals on the chart. If you had sold your Ethereum up at the tops and you do believe that there will be an altcoin season and this thing may come back, then we are starting to see buying signals on the chart with a mean reversion below 2 standard deviations, RSI down by 30, and MACD in the negative. All we're looking for is the crossover. The crossover will likely occur somewhere between $3,400 and $3,500 a coin, and that would be a potential buying signal. Resistance to the upside, significant resistance at $3,800 and up. MicroStrategy on the daily chart. Again, right when you think the MNAV couldn't get any lower, it continues to get lower. Let me update this. I just noticed that it said it needed updating, and it doesn't seem to be updating. That's kind of interesting. Give me a second to just reload this whole page and see what happens, and then I'll try to update it again if it says it needs updated. Update to the latest version. There it goes. And so where are we sitting at with the MNAV? The MNAV right now, undiluted 1.07, fully diluted 1.2. I have calculated it at around 1.11, and James has from Invest Answers has calculated it at around 1.095. That's a 9.5% premium above and beyond the amount of Bitcoin they hold on their balance sheet. Okay. We're back down at $250 levels. Again, if we just scroll across and we look at where were we hitting those levels the last time going into the election, right? We were at 250 back here in October of 2024, at the last day of October, last couple of days of October of 2024. And then again, a couple days after the election, we shot straight up through 250. So for all intents and purposes, we've given back the majority of gains that we've gotten over the last year. 1 year later, we're back to where we were with MicroStrategy, back to where we were with things like Solana, and pretty close to where we were with things like Bitcoin. Bitcoin has held up a little bit better, right? We are mean reverted to the downside. Last time we had any kind of selling signal on the daily, or we were mean reverted to the upside, was the end of July or July 18th. So hopefully people took this signal seriously. I know I didn't. I was on vacation. I was on a holiday with my wife celebrating my 25th wedding anniversary, and I wished I would have taken a little more action then. You can really see it clear as mud right here, clear as day, clear as mud right here on the 4-hour chart. Every signal was telling you to sell at least a portion of your MicroStrategy, or sell a cover call, or pull off a synthetic short, whatever it is, however you're going to sell or hedge your position. This was the time to do it. We had a second opportunity to do it here, which I did very aggressively at that point. And since then, we've just been going down and continuing this structural downtrend that we've been in since Friday, the 18th of July. How low? How low could it go? Well, let's take a look at the VRVP and really kind of take a look at where would support start to show up. And if we look over the last year, we are sitting on a level of support right now, right here at 255. 255 has been historically where we started to turn around. Have we wicked down a little bit lower to 230? Absolutely. But this seems to be the absolute bottom right now Could it go further down? Yes, it could go all the way down to 220, right? Could go to zero. Anything could go to zero. But right now, 230, just so you know, would be an MNAV of 1. An MNAV of 1 with MicroStrategy would imply a share price of 230. And I made a video all about that. I'll go ahead and link to it here. I made a video all about what if the MNAV went to 1, but Bitcoin rallied and it stayed 1. If MicroStrategy just stayed with an MNAV of 1 and it traded at just the value of the Bitcoin on its balance sheet, how high could it go? And I'll let you guys decide for yourself on that one. But we are seeing significant resistance here to the upside at around 325 to 330. That's, of course, when we get back up to there. We have resistance first here at 300 that we have to grind through, and a little bit at 265. So really, 265 will present just a blip in the road, like a speed bump. We'll run into a little bit more resistance starting around 290 to 300, and then starting again around 325 to 345. That's going to be significant resistance between now and over the next 4 to 6 weeks. Tesla keeps grinding up day after day. One day it grinds up and makes a close to a new all-time high. I know the all-time high is 488.50, but we've gotten close to it a few times, and then it tends to sell right back off again. I still see these, let me put VRVP on. I still see these gaps here on the chart, whether they fill or not. I used to be very confident that they were going to fill. Now I'm somewhat confident, but the markets seem to be very irrational when it comes to the AI. I'm not saying it's in a bubble. I don't believe it's in a bubble. I believe that tons and tons and tons of CapEx is being invested into the AI markets, and that many of these companies are relatively fairly priced. I feel like this was a massive move on very little news. Just the fact that Elon basically bought $1 billion worth of stock to pump his own stock. Do I like it? Absolutely. I'm a huge Tesla shareholder. It's my second largest position. Has actually, I think, eclipsed and become my first largest position. So let's go. I hope this thing goes to the moon. But on the flip side, I'm cautiously optimistic that I may get, quote, another bite of the apple. It may come down and test the 50-day moving average and give me an opportunity to buy some more Tesla. We are still mean reverted to the upside on the daily and showing not really selling signals, but topping signals. On the 4-hour, we've gotten two sell signals over the last month and a half or so. Let's say last 4 to 6 weeks. We did come off the biggest mean reversion to the upside we've seen since 2018. We threw in another one here, a giant one here on October 29th, and did sell off a bit after that. Hopefully you guys were able to pick up. I'm picking up shares. I'm not going in and buying leaps. Leaps are incredibly expensive right now. I'm sure somebody's going to go ask Invest Answers again if he's buying leaps right now on Tesla, or what leaps they should buy on Tesla. If you're one of my clients, you know I've been beating the table about it. It has not been a good opportunity to buy leaps on Tesla for the last 2 months. 2 months. Ever since that giant spike back at the beginning of September, there's been really no opportunity given to buy juicy leaps on Tesla. They've been super expensive. So what do I do on all these little pullbacks? I just set limit orders that are 5 to 10% below the prevailing price. And if I pick up a couple extra shares, awesome. I've also been rolling covered calls on a regular basis. I know there are some people that just can't handle the emotions of selling covered calls. And honestly, you shouldn't be doing them. I know that's just blunt. But Invest Answer says not to do them. But then Invest Answer sells one at 500 and it ends up closing, and he kept the entire premium, right? The one that he sold for the end of October. He says he's not doing it right now. Fair enough. That's because he has massive positions and wants to leave maximum growth potential uncapped through the end of the year. You may say, I want to go ahead and take a little bit of profits because I'm way up on my Tesla, and I want to have that money to maybe repurpose into things like Nvidia, PLTR, other AI plays, AMD, if they pull back, right? Maybe you don't have as big of bags as you would like to see there. Really, you've got to find your rhythm at the end of the day, and that's what I help people do. with my understanding options course, my TradingView and technical analysis course, the limited number of one-on-one appointments that I still do, and the community, which has already been soft launched and will be hard launched here very, very shortly. So where do I see support right now? This red line of point of control over the last couple months or so, that's sitting around 435. So anything down by 430, 435, snap it up. That's a decent buying opportunity. It's not the best, but it's better than buying up at 470. On the flip side, if it dropped all the way down and went down and retouched this 50-day moving average, that's around 415. That's an even better buying opportunity. And if we started to fill any of these gaps, retesting the 61.8% fib level that we just cruised right through and never even pit stop there, that's like a back up the truck and perhaps start looking at leaps type place on Tesla. To the upside, it's really just this 470 level is proving to be the last level of resistance, and prior to that it's 460. So 460, 470 are the levels that you would need to see Tesla break through, retest, and then continue up and take a look at the new all-time high again. Here we are over on Nvidia. Nvidia made new all-time highs last week, right? Awesome to see it spike all the way up to 212. And then it immediately came back down and filled these gaps that formed on that spike up on the news last week. And we're sitting right now on about 200, right? How far could it come back? It could come back and retest this level of support before doing the next leg up. That's at around 190. This between 185 and 190, that's a buy zone for me if I'm looking at the daily chart on Nvidia. If I go over onto the 4-hour chart of Nvidia, we are starting to see a sell signal show up. One of the largest red mean reversion dots that we've seen since all the way back here in May of 2023, right? So that's absolutely, or 2020. Yeah, May of 2023 was the last time we saw a red mean reversion dot that was 3 standard deviations to the upside. We saw what happened with Tesla after that happened. We saw a significant sell-off afterwards. So would not surprise me to see this pull back and retest this zone of support right here. Our resistance to the upside right now is the all-time high. It's around 212, right, for Nvidia to the upside. Palantir did this wild wick straight into the stratosphere all the way up to $222. That was yesterday, right, on that closing candle, and then in after hours. And then immediately today sold off like a champ. We have the red sell signal. We have the red mean reversion dot over here. We were out the top of the confluence cloud. The trend flipped over, and we are beelining back down towards this red point of control, which is sitting here at around 180. This is a super, super volatile stock. I've had a blast selling covered calls on it since I took a position in it back on October 7th, I believe, or October 4th. I might have bought the shares somewhere at the beginning of October. I've already generated $4 or $5, maybe more than that, $6,000, $5,000 worth of income from covered calls on a few hundred shares. And my goal is to generate somewhere in the neighborhood of $30 a share worth of covered call income. That'd be $9,000. And that would reimburse me for the additional 50 shares that I bought. So I bought 350 shares. I've been selling covered calls against 300 of them. And the 50 are soon going to be free at the rate that I'm going, which is super, super cool. They reported earnings. I don't follow their earnings well enough, but it looks like they beat on all accounts. And of course, when something beats, why wouldn't it sell off afterwards? That seems to be the new norm in the world of SEC reporting right now. Cruising along to our other favorites, MicroStrategy Tesla pair just keeps making lower lows. We're down to 0.558, almost 0.56, 0.557. That is super low for this pair. We are right back to levels that we last saw back here in September of 24. So we've given back over a year's worth of growth of MicroStrategy versus Tesla. And in a matter of months, just since July, August, September, October, and going now into November. So now 3.5, almost 4 months later, we've given back the previous 13, 14 months worth of gains of MicroStrategy versus Tesla. Where's the bottom? Guys, I wish I was Nostradamus on this one. I've said all along that if you only have Tesla shares, might be a good idea to go ahead and move some over to MicroStrategy, because I do anticipate cryptocurrency or Bitcoin having a bounce, right? That was before we started showing this weakness again. I still think it's going to bounce. I'm still probably 80% bull and 20% bear at this point, which is better than Check on Chain. He's like 70-30. However, if Bitcoin doesn't bounce and thus MicroStrategy doesn't bounce and Tesla continues to move from strength to strength, you're better off being in Tesla, right? Until otherwise noted. So I would wait. I would clearly wait for this trend to really flip before moving more Tesla over into MicroStrategy. If I already had relatively equal amounts of them, if I had only Tesla, sure, I might take 10% of my position and move it over into MicroStrategy, because even in the next bull run, you might have to wait a year or two, but even in the next bull run, that sucker should really pay you some handsome dividends, right? So that's up to you. But right now, there are just continuous signs to go from Tesla into MicroStrategy. But every time the trend flips, it flips right back against us. And I'd really like to see the trend flip and stay up to the upside. If we go onto the daily, it's just been down and to the right. We almost flipped positive on the trend right here. So maybe you wait for the daily to flip, for the trend to flip, and then you make and do your Tesla over into MicroStrategy on the daily chart. I know that's the first time I've switched it over to the daily in a long, long time. MicroStrategy IBIT pair or MicroStrategy Bitcoin, we made a bottom way down here at 4.18. All of a sudden, MicroStrategy started rallying again against Bitcoin. We had gone clearly right out the bottom of the ARB cloud right here on October 30th, right at the end of the month. We went back up into the cloud, but we're right down back at the bottom of the cloud again. The time to go from MicroStrategy to IBIT is when we go out of the top of the cloud, and the time to go from IBIT into MicroStrategy is when we go out the bottom of the cloud, which is what we've been seeing. Arbitraging Bitcoin or IBIT into MicroStrategy is what we've been seeing over and over again. The rotation model, somebody gave me feedback on this, and they said, well, gosh, if the rotation model was so great, why has yours been stuck at around $60,000? Well, guess what? It's now at $55,000. And isn't it time to change out the holdings that are there in the rotation model? And it's funny, the one out of all of them that they said I should be looking to rotate out of the rotation model, out of the big five that I have listed there, was gold, which is kind of funny. I think that's the one that needs to stay in. If I were going to take any of them out, it might have been MicroStrategy would be the one to take out of the rotation model. Here's the deal, guys. I put this in so that I could teach this along with all of the other Invest Answers indicators, right? I've been the one that's been teaching these indicators the longest. I've taught them for over 3 years when nobody else was teaching them. It came along that others were making videos about the rotation model, so I made one about the rotation model, and I've included it in my TA Tuesdays ever since. It is not my go-to. My go-to is IADSS. Every single chart you've seen today, you've seen me show IADSS over and over and over again. That's confluence trend and mean reversion, with confluence turned on twice, once on bullish and once on bearish, which also I came up with over 2.5 years ago. That's my go-to. That's it. That's what I use to trade on a regular basis. I don't use all the other tools on a regular basis. Can I show you how to use them? Can I show you how to set them up? Absolutely. Have I had tremendous results with them? In this case, not really. Honestly, not really. It's better than hodling over the last time frame that I have listed here, right? If I had hodled, I'd have $18,000, but by rotating, I'm at $55,000, which is a 2,000% return versus a 600% return. But a lot of that is just due to choosing the absolutely correct assets up here of these 5 assets that I chose. Could you sub that out for something else? Sure, you could sub that out for something else. Maybe one of the SOL ETFs. Maybe you want to go with something in the AI sector that's unrelated to Tesla or Nvidia, maybe and Palantir, quite frankly. Maybe you want to sub out gold, and instead of gold, you want to put in IBIT for a Bitcoin holding, and then sub out MicroStrategy and do something else that's not related to Bitcoin, like a HIMS, right, or something else. That's up to you. It's just not something that I am going to cover with a lot of time. I definitely won't spend as much time as I spent on it today on my TA Tuesdays. That's a discussion that would be great in the community, and you guys can discuss it, and I will chime in left and right and show you how to optimize it and everything else. And finally, we've got STRK, STRD, STRF, STRC. STRK has been selling at a discount, guys. It has been selling at a discount of about 13% to par value. It's been down at around $87 when par value was 100. That's the one that's convertible into 10 shares of STRK are convertible into 100. 10 shares of STRK are convertible into 1 share of MicroStrategy. So that makes sense. If you were to buy today STRK and buy 10 shares, it would cost you $874. So it would make sense when MicroStrategy, a share of MicroStrategy is over $875. Will that be in the next few weeks? No. Will that be in the next few months? Highly unlikely. Will that be in the next few years? Yes, I believe it will be. So you have to have the longer term vision with STRK. STRD is the junk bond one. It's trading at a significant discount. You could trade the heck out of that one, buying it at 77, 78 and selling it up at 84, 85 and making the face value on it, and don't even worry about the dividend that it pays out every quarter. STRF is trading at a 10% premium, right? It's trading for $110. So the effective yield is not 10%, but is closer to 9%, but it's like a guaranteed 9% month after month after, quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter. And last but not least is STRC. STRC has just about reclaimed par value. There is the Euro version that just launched. It's called STRE, and that's over there in Europe, and it pairs it against the euro instead of the US dollar. And there's going to be some opportunity there. This is going to be the catalyst. This is going to be the driver. This is going to be the one where Saylor uses this to drive Bitcoin purchases. And when will he do it? When it's at 100 or higher, when it's at par value or higher. Well, we've waited a while for it to get close to par value or higher, right? We had a wick above par value, so he sold off some new STRC back here. We're right back up to it again. When we're at like 99 or higher, that's when Saylor is looking to tap the ATM on STRC. It's funny. Somebody else said it's when it drops down below like 95. That's incorrect. That's when he raises the rate, the dividend rate. The dividend rate will continue to be raised anytime the asset is trading. STRC is trading below $99 a coin, right? $99 a share. When it's up over $100 a share, he's going to issue more, and he has like over $4.2 billion at his disposal with the ATM to continue hammering the ATM, because people at $100, they're getting a 10.5% yield. That's huge. Within 10 years, you've gotten a full return of your capital. And theoretically, you haven't then paid any taxes on it for 10 years. Number one. Number two, he's directly buying Bitcoin, which is translating the sats per share on the balance sheet, which means common shareholders, all of a sudden the MNAV keeps going down lower and lower. So the second that MNAV starts to expand again, when Bitcoin goes on another tear, your shares will go up exponentially faster because they have more Bitcoin per share attached to them. If you understand that and you understand the flywheel, drop a comment below and tell me how freaking amazing that is. Finally, gold hit its peak, lost its luster, pun intended, here on October 20th, and has since been selling off and has dropped from, this is GLD, the biggest ETF in the world, from 403 back down to 362. Where's the floor? Probably the 50-day moving average is what I would say, somewhere around 350. What's resistance to the upside? And don't disregard this all-time high. The all-time high should be up here around 403. We'll start to see some resistance here at 369, 377 to 380, 386, all the way up to 394, and finally right up at around 400, which is kind of correlating with gold's resistance points along the way. All right, guys, this one ended up being a little bit longer. It's because I'm feeling a little bit better after my surgery here. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you're smashing that like button, right? Smash the like button. That means and subscribe to the channel. That means YouTube will show you more of my content, but more of the content that others make like mine. So you can determine your own opinion at the end of the day, right? Too many people put their faith in a single influencer to make all their decisions. Go grab the opinions of 10 or 12 different major influencers and see what they're saying, right? You heard me quote everybody from Invest Answers to James Check from Check on Chain to Jordy Visser. I've historically quoted others like Anthony Pompliano, you name it. I follow them, James Lavish. I get their newsletters on a regular basis, and I formulate my own opinions as such. Comment below, let me know what you like best and what you'd like to see more of and or what you learned today. Make sure you book a course with me. I already described them. I teach one on TradingView and technical analysis, the only one that's offering courses in that area that you can go at your own pace. I also have a course on understanding options where I've taken people from brand newbie, had no clue what they were doing with options, to consistently generating returns. In fact, that's JJ, the third testimonial that you see down there, where he said his ROI so far is 6,185%. So he spent a few $100s on the options course, $500 to be exact, and turned around and made it back and then some, like to the course of tens of thousands of dollars. So well done, JJ. And like I said, we've soft launched the community to my inner circle right now, and it'll be getting launched to any of you who have ever booked a course with me, who have ever done a one-on-one with me, who have ever done a class with me, and who have ever signed up for the G Dinero tips, free tips and tricks. If you've done any of the above, you're going to get first dibs on the coaching community. So make sure you head on over to gdinerocoaching.com to be a part of that. And finally, thanks for tuning in, guys. I'm G Dinero. I'm here to help you increase your financial literacy, to help put you and your family on that path to financial freedom. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Take care.